Hey everyone, my name is Holly McMahan and I'm the 4-H Extension Agent for New Kent and Charles City counties. Today, what we're going to do is make berry jam that can be frozen, so no canning needed. I'll actually be using strawberries today, but you can also use blackberries in this recipe. We're going to take you through all the steps and hopefully it'll be something that you can enjoy on those wonderful biscuits that you made earlier. We're excited about cooking and baking with you all today, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now that we're getting ready to start our baking, there are a couple things that I want to remind you of. As 4-H members, before you begin baking, there are a few things to take care of. One is make sure you have the adults in charge, permission, and help to be in the kitchen baking. The next thing that you should do is always wash your hands. When washing your hands, you should always make sure that you wet them first, get some soap, lather your hands, and that you wash for 20 seconds. Make sure that you get your wrist, the palms of your hands, and in between all your fingers. Also make sure that you get the back side of your hands and in between fingers. Wash for 20 seconds, rinse your hands, dry them off with a paper towel, and then turn your water off using your paper towel. The next thing that you need to do is make sure that you start with good, clean working surfaces and equipment. Alright, now that we have adult help and permission, we also have washed our hands, cleaned our working surface, and all of our equipment, the next thing that you want to do is make sure you read through your recipe. That way, you know that you have all your ingredients and all your necessary equipment to carry out the recipe. Okay, so first we'll need some kind of mixing bowls. One should be fine, but I have two just in case. You'll also need measuring cups, a liquid measuring cup as well. So these are the dry, this is the liquid. Some kind of knife, since we'll be cutting the caps of the strawberries off. Spatula, something to crush the berries, so I'm using a potato masher. A saucepan, containers to store your jam in once you finish making it. And to help do that, I've got a funnel to make it easier to get in. And you'll also need this tool, which is used to measure headspace at the top of the container when you're filling it. Today, I'm using these freezer containers. They can be found in the Ziploc bag and storage section of your grocery store. They are freezer ready, and the lid simply screws on the top. Alright, this recipe only calls for 4 ingredients. The ingredients include your berries. You can use either strawberries or blackberries for this recipe. The next ingredient is sugar. This recipe calls for 4 cups of sugar. Then you'll also need 1 package of powdered pectin. So for this, this recipe calls for powdered pectin. So don't get confused when you go to the store looking for this. There are 2 kinds of pectin. There is the powdered version and the liquid version. Make sure that you are getting the powdered version of pectin. And last but not least, this recipe calls for 1 cup of water. Alright, I do want to talk just a little bit more about pectin. Let's talk about what pectin is. The powdered version, which we'll be using for this recipe, is usually made from citrus fruit. Liquid pectin is usually made from the skins of apples. Pectin is used to preserve the fruit in this recipe. So So, in order for it to do so, it's very important that we follow the recipe like it is written. We must use ripe fruit, so ripe blackberries or strawberries for this recipe. We cannot reduce the sugar. So if the recipe calls for 4 cups of sugar, that's the amount that we need to use. We also need to measure out everything accurately. We should not double this recipe. We should also follow the cooking instructions as they are listed in the recipe. We are going to heat the pectin using boiling water, and we're going to be using freezer containers. Alright, now that we've gotten those few housekeeping things taken care of, the next step is for us to go ahead and start making our jam and have fun while doing so. Alright, the first thing that we want to do is rinse off our strawberries. So I'm using a colander to do that. And once I'm done with that, I'm actually going to cut the caps, cut the green part off of each strawberry, and then quarter it. Now that we have rinsed our strawberries and cut off the caps and stems, it's now time to crush the berries. So I'm using a potato masher. So you can use anything similar to just go ahead and start crushing. And this will take just a few minutes. All right, so you can see they're starting to crush, but it's gonna take a little more arm work. So we're gonna keep on crushing. All right, so this right here looks like a really good consistency. So our next step is gonna be measuring out our 2 cups. All right, so like I said earlier, this recipe calls for 2 cups of crushed strawberries. So we're just gonna go ahead and measure that out into a larger bowl. All right, the next thing that we need to do is measure out 4 cups of sugar. Alright, now with our strawberry and sugar mixture, we're just going to mix it well and then let it sit for 20 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start mixing, and then we'll let it rest, but stir occasionally during that 20 minutes. It looks pretty well mixed. I just want to get the sides of my bowl. And then I will let it sit for its 20 minutes, but every few minutes I'll come by and just stir it occasionally. While we're waiting for our strawberry sugar mixture to reach its 20 minutes of sitting, one thing that you can do is kind of clean up some of the dishes you have. So that's what I'm going to do during my 20-minute break. Also, I'm setting my timer for about 15 minutes so that when that timer goes off, I can start working on boiling my water and pectin. Alright, the next thing that we need to do is dissolve our pectin into water. So I have 1 cup of water. I'm going to go ahead and open up my pectin packet. I'm going to stir this up. And then allow it to boil. Alright, now our pectin water mixture is starting to boil, so I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute to let it boil for that amount of time. Keep close eye on it so that it doesn't boil over, but you do want it to continuously boil for a minute. Alright, now that our timer has gone off, it's time to remove this mixture of pectin and water from the stovetop, and we are going to pour it into our strawberry sugar mixture. And we're going to stir this continuously for 2 minutes. And it should smell very good. Yum! Alright, so one thing that we want to be mindful of when we are placing our strawberry jam into our freezer containers is to make sure we fill it to the right amount. So our recipe says to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace with our freezer container. So this instrument, this tool right here, helps you measure out the 1/2 inch. So if you come here, that would be 1/4 inch. Go to the next level, that would be a 1/2 inch, then 3/4 and 1 inch. So we want to make sure that we leave a 1/2 inch of headspace at the top of our freezer container. That way, if our strawberry jam expands when it freezes, it'll have that much space to do so. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add my mixture to my freezer containers. And you'll see it's starting to set up already. And it's okay to be a little messy. As you see, I definitely am. All right, so I have gotten to my 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna move on to my next container. Alright, so the next thing that you want to do is make sure you close all your containers and then let it stand for 24 hours at room temperature. And once you're done with that, once you've reached that, you can go ahead and store in either the refrigerator or the freezer. And also, always remember to enjoy. Thank you, and I hope you all have a great time making this recipe.